when I learned that Jonathan, in order to deliver cold medicine to his assistant, didn't care about me. Stuck in the elevator with claustrophobia, I proposed a divorce. Jonathan decisively signed the papers and laughed as he told his friends, "She's just throwing a little tantrum. Her parents are both dead, so there's no way she's going to divorce me." He added, "Besides, there's a 30-day cooling-off period for divorces, right? If she regrets it, I'll show mercy and let it slide. She'll come back to me." The next day, he posted a photo with his assistant, captioned, "Capturing every shy moment of yours." I counted the days, calmly packing my things. I made a phone call. "Uncle, help me buy a plane ticket to New York." Chapter 1. "Great, Ollie. I'm so happy you're willing to come back after all these years," said the middle-aged man on the other end of the phone, his voice rising with joy. Just as I hung up the phone, Jonathan opened the door, and a wave of unfamiliar women's perfume wafted in. It was sharp and sickly sweet. "Who were you talking to?" He didn't care. His eyes locked on his phone screen, unwilling to spare me even a glance. Just as I was about to respond, his phone rang. The voice of a girl, sweet and flirtatious, came through. "Jonathan, thank you for bringing me the medicine a few days ago. If it weren't for you, my cold would have gotten worse. What would I have done without you?" Jonathan seemed to realize it was inappropriate and lowered the volume. I quietly closed my mouth. After all, we had already planned on getting a divorce, hadn't we? I silently continued packing a few things and, as usual, heated up a cup of milk for myself. After chatting with the girl on the phone, Jonathan sat on the sofa, flipping through his usual financial newspapers. It seemed like a habit. He reached for the flower tea I always made for him, only to find it wasn't there. He finally looked up at me, his face showing impatience. "It's just that I didn't rescue you when the elevator broke down. Zoe has a relative who's a doctor. He says your claustrophobia is no big deal, so don't be so dramatic. Besides, I agreed to the divorce, so why are you still walking around with that sour face?" That day, I had worked late and was locked in the elevator, trembling with fear. By chance, the elevator lost power, and my phone was about to die. My claustrophobia triggered, and I shakily dialed Jonathan, but all he said was, "Can't you figure it out yourself? I'm busy." Then my phone died, and I fell unconscious. Later, I found out that his assistant, Zoe, had been given several days off, and it turned out that night he was busy delivering cold medicine to her. I proposed the divorce. "It's fine. After the divorce goes through, you won't have to look at my sour face anymore." I didn't stop what I was doing, thinking that Jonathan would be happy, but unexpectedly, he suddenly raised his voice. "Don't you dare regret it." When he saw I didn't respond, busy with my work, he stormed out. I couldn't be bothered to think about his emotions. I finished my work, made myself a cup of milk, and took a hot shower to get ready for bed. Jonathan texted me, "I'm drunk. Come pick me up and bring some yogurt." I didn't want to go, but the next moment, Jonathan added, "We haven't gotten the divorce papers yet. You still have to fulfill your duty as my wife." Tired, I packed my things and left. When I reached the club's entrance, I could clearly hear Jonathan and Zoe laughing inside. I remembered the night I first proposed the divorce. He was drunk, and his friend asked, "Jonathan, are you really going to divorce Alicia?" He sneered, "She's just throwing a tantrum. Her parents are both dead, so there's no way she'll actually divorce me. Besides, there's a 30-day cooling-off period, right? If Alicia regrets it, I'll be merciful, and she'll come back." He thought because I was an orphan, I'd never leave him, forgetting to think about how he should treat me, and believing that was the reason I couldn't live without him. Chapter 2. I pushed open the door, and when Jonathan saw me, he seemed slightly startled, his brow furrowing. "What are you doing here? Or are you stalking me?" he questioned. I raised my phone to show him. "You sent me the message." Zoe pouted and tugged at his arm, acting coy. "Jonathan, I was just joking around, asking Alicia to bring me some yogurt." "You're not mad at me, are you?" Jonathan's furrowed brow finally relaxed. What was strange, however, was that I felt no turmoil at all about Zoe's teasing or Jonathan's indulgence. There was no hysteria, no emotional outburst like usual. I simply nodded calmly as if I understood. Jonathan, for once, tried to explain. Alicia, Zoe was just with me for some socializing. I interrupted him, handing him the yogurt. Jonathan couldn't drive because he had been drinking. He settled Zoe and then came back with me. We took a taxi from across the street. As I walked ahead, Jonathan suddenly grabbed my arm, and I noticed a speeding car had almost brushed past me. If it weren't for him, I might have been injured. Don't walk around without looking at the cars, Jonathan scolded urgently, then held my hand tightly. In a daze, I recalled that every time we crossed the street before, he would always hold my hand. It had been so long since I had such an impression, so long that I felt a bit out of place. Luckily, after crossing the street, I subtly pulled my hand back. The next morning, I was packing my things to go to work. Jonathan offered to take me. I'll drive you. Because of his issues yesterday, I had slept late, and now taking the subway would be too late, so I decided not to be too fussy and agreed to ride with him. I opened the passenger side door, and a sweet, girly scent hit me. Inside, the seat covers were pink, with a cute Hello Kitty pillow. There was a sticker on the dashboard that read, Sean Shan's seat, proudly declaring ownership. Jonathan, usually known for his meticulous and no-nonsense reputation at work, allowed such childish trinkets in his car. It was almost ironic. A flicker of discomfort crossed Jonathan's face as he explained, Zoe's just a little kid. Don't take it too seriously. A little kid who takes couple photos together? I didn't voice the question, but Jonathan had posted a couple's photo on his social media the day after we applied for the divorce. Captioned, capturing every shy moment of yours. Whether it was his way of getting back at me for asking for a divorce or something else, his heart had already shifted elsewhere. I tactfully moved to the back seat. I'll sit in the back. You haven't had breakfast, have you? Jonathan seemed to sense the awkward silence and handed me a bottle of milk. I looked up, and there was a snack box in the car, filled with a variety of cookies and fruit jellies. I remembered Jonathan had a severe cleanliness obsession and didn't allow anyone to eat in his car. Back when I had low blood sugar in his car, my lips turned pale, my vision blurred, and I didn't even have the strength to speak. I asked for a cup of milk tea to ease it, but he wouldn't allow it. Now, Zoe could easily enjoy his indulgence. Love and indifference really are that obvious. I shook my head and politely declined, turning my gaze outside at the passing cars. Fortunately, we soon arrived at the company, and I quickly returned to my desk. Normally, since Jonathan and I were getting a divorce, I should have submitted my resignation. However, since I was still handling 2 projects, out of a sense of responsibility, I decided to finish them before leaving. By the time morning and afternoon passed in a blur, I was exhausted. I hadn't slept well, and my energy was low. Just as I was about to make myself a cup of coffee, the delivery guy arrived with a large box of milk tea and small cakes. Then, the cheer of my colleagues filled the air. I heard the bosses treating us to afternoon tea. The boss is so generous. You don't understand. It's because Zoe is on a diet, and the boss felt sorry for her, so he bought her afternoon tea and happened to treat everyone. We're just lucky. Chapter 3. Aw, didn't the boss marry Alicia? Keep your voice down. Alicia is still here. Alicia, we were just joking. Please don't think too much about it. Seeing nothing but milk tea and chocolate cakes, I immediately understood what was happening. They must have invited the entire company to afternoon tea out of sympathy for Zoe's diet, worried about the negative effects on her health. I really wanted to taste the proof of their love. Too bad I'm allergic to mango and don't like chocolate products. When Jonathan was pursuing me, it was always grand and intense. He'd worry that I was too busy with work to eat on time, using the excuse of work reports to keep me around so we could eat together. He would secretly slip medicine into small cakes when I was sick and still working, just to see the awkward expression on my face when I struggled to swallow it. The dull office came alive as they gossiped about our romance. But now, that fluttering feeling and affection had shifted to someone else. I didn't have time to dwell on it. There was too much work on my plate. I'd already pulled several late nights for this project. And today, predictably, I had to continue. By the time evening came, the sky outside was darkening, and Jonathan arrived by my side without me even noticing. Alicia, still working late? I didn't know why he suddenly came to find me. Jonathan, is there something you need? He seemed a bit uncomfortable with my coldness but didn't dwell on it. He bluntly said, "How about giving this project to Zoe?" Even though I was prepared for it, my heart still couldn't help but feel hurt. Zoe has been through a lot of gossip recently. If she takes on this project, her work abilities won't be questioned. He knew how hard I had worked for this project, pulling all-nighters, pushing myself to the limit, and now he was casually offering it to Zoe. Every word he said was about protecting Zoe from rumors, but he didn't mention at all how unfair this was to me. I let out a light laugh, feeling a sense of irony. Fine. Let her have it. Tell her to come meet me tomorrow for the handover. I had done my best for this company. I might as well resign and let Zoe take over the follow-up. It would be easier for me. Jonathan seemed surprised by how quickly I agreed. He took a necklace box from his pocket and handed it to me. "You always wanted a necklace from this brand, didn't you?" I was wrong before. Girls like these things. I'll make it up to you later. It was the necklace from the brand I liked, the one I had mentioned wanting, but he hadn't given it to me at the time when I would have appreciated it the most. Now, the meaning behind it was lost. I didn't like this kind of gesture, slapping someone and then offering a sweet date afterward. After I agreed, Jonathan's tone softened. He draped his coat over my shoulders. "Don't be stubborn. What happened before was my fault. Let's go withdraw the divorce application. You've always wanted to go to Dolly, right? I'll go with you there." I didn't say anything, and Jonathan took my silence as agreement, continuing to talk to himself. On the way back, I scrolled through my WeChat moments and discovered a post from Zoe. The same brand, the same packaging for the necklace. The difference was that hers was far more beautiful and exquisite than mine. It hit me, Jonathan had given me a free gift. How laughable. He knew what I liked, but didn't even bother to put in the effort to pick one out for me. Chapter 4. Tomorrow was the last day of the divorce cooling-off period. After tomorrow, I would be completely separated from Jonathan. I was watering the flowers I kept on the balcony when my ring, worn on my middle finger, suddenly fell off and dropped down. Instinctively, I leaned over to pick it up. "What are you doing?" Jonathan grabbed my hand and pulled me forward. "Do you know how dangerous this is?" His eyes reflected concern and urgency. It seemed like he still cared about me. "The ring fell," I explained. The ring had been specially made for me by him. I liked the design, which was why I had worn it all this time. It was only when it fell from the balcony that I rushed to retrieve it. Jonathan sighed. "It's just a ring. I'll buy you another one. You don't need to go this far. Just a ring." I glanced at his own middle finger. It was bare. He'd probably taken it off a long time ago. "Tomorrow is our anniversary. I'll pick you up, and we can celebrate it together." How long had it been since we properly celebrated an anniversary? I pondered for a moment. Let's treat it as a way to end this marriage on a perfect note. On our anniversary the next day, I sat in the pre-booked restaurant. I waited for a long time, starving and growing more impatient as time passed. But he still hadn't shown up. I opened my phone to send Jonathan a message, telling him that if he wasn't sincere about celebrating the anniversary, he could just say so and not waste my time. After calling him several times without an answer, I looked at my work chat and saw a message from an anonymous account. "Zoe is seducing her married boss, using her youth and looks to get ahead. It's truly shameful." Attached were some pieces of evidence showing that I had handed the project to Zoe. Though the post was aimed at Zoe, it clearly pointed to me. Soon after reading the message, Jonathan stormed in, slamming the door open. "I thought you willingly gave the project to Zoe, but instead, you're so malicious, agreeing to it but spreading rumors about her behind her back. Alicia, how dirty can you be?" Zoe was hiding behind Jonathan, crying as if she had been terribly wronged. "I don't care about the project, and I didn't mind what they said about me. But Alicia, I always considered you a good friend. Why are you doing this to me?" "It wasn't me," I stated calmly. "Since I agreed to give it to her, I wouldn't stoop to something like that. Who else but you would target Zoe?" "Alicia, you hypocritical woman. Zoe even carefully chose the restaurant for us. And you don't deserve any of it. He was so furious on Zoe's behalf that he was red-faced, slamming a plate on the floor, the shards scattering everywhere. After over 10 years together, he still couldn't believe me. I took the divorce agreement out of my pocket. Since that's the case, the 30-day cooling-off period is over. Let's sign it. I placed my resignation letter on top of the agreement. He sneered, quickly taking the pen and signing it. Your wish is granted. He then grabbed Zoe and left. I sat there, watching their backs as they left. It seemed there was no need to celebrate this final anniversary. I stared at the cold dishes on the table, eating the pasta bite by bite. Once I finished, I grabbed the suitcase I'd packed earlier and ordered a ride to the airport. On the way to the airport, I sent Jonathan a message. The keys are on the table in the living room. It's over. Don't contact me again. After sending the message, I turned off my phone and boarded the flight to New York. Chapter 5. Through the airplane window, the city grew smaller and smaller. I finally felt what it was like to be leaving. I wondered what Jonathan's reaction would be when he finds out I left, surprised? Or maybe relieved that he's finally free of me. In my memories, we were intimate partners, the most harmonious work colleagues, the envy of everyone as a perfect couple. He knew my parents passed away early. Back then, he held me and said, I'll take care of you. From now on, I'm your family. But how did it end up being? Her parents are gone. She can't divorce me? How did his sympathy and care for me turn into a reason to be so certain that I couldn't leave him? The thoughts made my head ache, and I didn't want to think about it anymore. They say that when a relationship no longer brings happiness, the best solution is to end it. I closed my eyes, waiting for the plane to take me to another country. When the plane landed, I pulled my luggage forward. Then I heard my uncle shouting while holding a sign. I turned in surprise and saw my uncle pushing my elderly grandmother toward me. My uncle didn't seem to have changed much from my memory, and my grandmother's eyes were still full of kindness. Ollie, let Grandma take a good look at you. Grandma stroked my hand, her eyes misty with tears. My dear Ollie, you've been suffering over there. From now on, come back to Grandma's place. No one will hurt you again. Grandma wouldn't let go of my hand. Perhaps it was because my face looked too weary to hide the pain. Or maybe it was the silent understanding between us. I smiled and nodded. My uncle laughed joyfully. You should have come back sooner. After your parents passed, you've been all alone. Grandma's been so worried, seeing how much they loved me. I couldn't help but feel guilty for not visiting them more often because of Jonathan. I promised. Grandma, Uncle, I won't leave again. I'll stay with you every day. Jonathan always thought I was an orphan, but I still had my uncle and grandma. I rarely mentioned going to see them, but it seemed he never really paid attention to that. He didn't care. He never asked. After turning my phone back on, I found a pile of missed calls and countless voice messages. The phone kept vibrating with notifications. My uncle frowned and asked, "That guy's still bothering you?" "It's okay, Uncle. I'll handle it," I reassured him. I answered the phone, and Jonathan immediately started with accusations and insults. "Alicia, where have you been? Who gave you the nerve to not answer my calls or messages? You've ruined Zoe's life. Do you think you can just walk away from this?" Zoe was sobbing in the background, gasping for air. "It's okay. The people at the company said some things. But I don't blame Alicia. I only blame myself for being so incompetent. Jonathan's been worrying about me too much." Jonathan, now even angrier, continued to scold me. "Did you hear that? Alicia, you'd better come back and apologize to Zoe in person. If your apology is sincere, I'll pretend nothing happened. If not, I'll fire you right now." I couldn't help but laugh, finding it all rather amusing. "Jonathan, we're already divorced. We have no relationship anymore." Jonathan seemed to remember that day when he signed the divorce papers. "I know we're divorced," he said, his voice cold. "But this is a request from your boss. You've done something wrong. Don't you think you should apologize?" I calmly responded, "Jonathan, if I'm not mistaken, you also signed my resignation. We're no longer in a boss-employee relationship, and I have no obligation to respond to your messages or calls." Jonathan paused, clearly caught off guard. When did you resign? I didn't approve your resignation. You think you can just do whatever and walk away without consequences? Chapter 6. Jonathan. Just check if I did it. By the way, tell Zoe, if you have time to pull these little stunts, you'd be better off improving your work skills. I hung up the phone. I immediately blocked and deleted Jonathan's number. For a moment, I hesitated. Then I pulled up my chat history with Jonathan and deleted all of it as well. Because the memory was too full, my phone began to slow down. I quietly watched as all the years of our relationship, from meeting to falling in love, disappeared slowly from the screen. A mix of emotions flooded my heart. I put my phone back into my pocket and raised a light smile to reassure my grandmother and uncle, who both looked at me with concern. When we got home, I found that my uncle had already prepared a clean and cozy room for me. Ollie, do you like it? I'm not sure what girls like, so I just bought some random things. My uncle scratched his head, looking a bit embarrassed, but when I looked around the room, I saw it was decorated in my favorite style, soft cream colors, with a blue desk lamp that I liked. I love it, Uncle. Thank you. My uncle grinned. All right then, get settled. We'll have dinner soon. The love and care from my family lifted my spirits, and I felt warmth spread throughout my heart. After a few days of relaxing at home, I couldn't sit still anymore and decided to go back to work. When I worked with Jonathan, I had thrown myself into earning money and driving sales to give us a better life. Now, I just wanted a laid-back job, something that would give me more time to spend with my grandmother and uncle. I found a job as a barista, making coffee every day and enjoying the simplicity of it all. My old colleague Ava, with whom I used to get along well, contacted me. She sent me a video. It showed Jonathan, driven by the desire to protect Zoe, having someone investigate the IP of the anonymous comment that had slandered her. It turned out that Zoe had made the comment herself. Seriously, is Zoe out of her mind? She's sabotaging herself? Anyway, Jonathan was furious and moved Zoe from her assistant position the very same day. She continued telling me all the gossip. I knew why she was telling me all this. She wanted to make sure that Jonathan and I would be completely divorced. She wasn't as innocent as Jonathan had always described her. After some pleasantries, she continued, "That project you were handling before? After you left it to Zoe, she's messed it up every day, either not knowing something or having issues with the data. The other company wants the project leader changed, or they won't continue working with us. Now, everyone knows that Zoe didn't even fight for that project on her own." I listened quietly, but I didn't really care about anything related to Jonathan anymore. I tucked the phone under my shoulder, leaving my hands free to practice latte art. As a barista, my latte art still needed improvement. So every evening after work, I practiced at home. By the way, Jonathan seems to be looking for you. He asked around at the company who had your contact information. And the mood at the office is really bad lately. I've had to deliver documents to Jonathan, and he's been picking apart everything, getting upset with us. We've been working late, and everyone's been complaining. I hesitated for a moment while pouring milk. You didn't tell him, did you? Ava quickly reassured me. Absolutely not, Ollie. After all you've done for me, I would never betray you. That made me feel at ease. The next few days of work left me feeling more relaxed than I had in ages. But still, I couldn't shake the feeling that someone was following me. I tried to tell myself it was just my imagination, but to my surprise, Jonathan still managed to find me. One day, I was making coffee. This job was peaceful, and the smell of coffee in the air made me feel calm. "Hello, can I get you something?" When I looked up at the customer, I froze. In the next moment, my friendly smile vanished, replaced by cold indifference. Ollie. I had no idea how he'd found me here, but all I knew was that I didn't want to see him. It had been months since we last saw each other. Jonathan now had a scruffy beard and dark circles under his eyes. When we were together, he was always so neat, always impeccably dressed, and very refined. Ollie, come back with me. Chapter 7. His eyes were slightly red as he spoke in a hoarse voice. Ollie, why did you block me? My thoughts drifted back to the day I deleted all our chat history and then blocked him. Jonathan, I've told you, We're already divorced. I've also resigned from your company. What do you want from me now?" Hearing these words, Jonathan's throat bobbed, as if he was suppressing his emotions. "Our divorce was my fault. I misunderstood you, and that's why I impulsively signed the divorce papers. As for the project, I've looked into it. I was wrong about you. I shouldn't have so recklessly assumed it was you. Now I realize I was wrong. Could you give me another chance?" I looked at him with some sarcasm. The divorce wouldn't be final until 30 days after the papers were signed, which meant he had 2 more chances to try and change my mind. What he didn't know was that the reason for my wanting the divorce had nothing to do with his false accusations. That was just the final straw that broke the camel's back after 7 years of love and 5 years of marriage. The real reason was that his heart had long since drifted away. "Do you think I wanted a divorce just because you made me transfer the project to Zoe, or because you assumed I was playing a double game?" Jonathan seemed to be in pain, his expression twisting as if he were struggling to hold back his emotions. I continued, "When you chose to leave me, someone with claustrophobia, alone in the elevator just to deliver cold medicine to Zoe, that's when I made the decision to divorce you." He knew I had claustrophobia. I had once been accidentally locked in a storage room for several hours. He had blamed himself, holding me tight and crying, swearing that he would never let me face such danger again. He even removed the door from the storage room. But later, he chose to abandon me for another woman. "I'm sorry, Ollie. I thought you had reached out to someone else. I didn't know you passed out for so long. But we've been together for so many years. 7 years of love. You really think you can just let go of it? I thought that you were just angry, and after a few days, you'd calm down and we could withdraw the divorce application. I never really thought we'd end up divorced. Just like before. Too many times he expected me to just let things cool down, to wait until my anger subsided. But why should I be the one to carry all of this alone? I'm not coming back with you. Go away." I wiped my hands, too disgusted to say another word. Jonathan seemed determined to take me back to our country. For several days, he either sat in the coffee shop staring at me while I made coffee or stood outside my door. He even brought me a large bouquet of flowers every morning. Looking at the piles of various flowers outside my door, I remembered how long it had been since he last gave me flowers. He had even forgotten what flowers I liked. He was worming his way back into my life. One evening after work, I came home to find Jonathan standing there with a dozen cups of milk tea in his hands, looking both ridiculous and pathetic. When he saw me, he smiled ingratiatingly, like a little dog wagging its tail, eager for a smile from its master to make him happy for a long time. "Ollie, the first milk tea of autumn. I bought you 10 cups, all your favorites." I looked at the milk tea and remembered how, around this time last year, I had jokingly asked him to buy me the first milk tea of autumn, following a popular online trend. How did he respond back then? "Alicia, don't you think you're a bit too old for this? These kinds of internet trends are for little girls. Don't you find them disgusting?" But when I saw his posts on social media, I saw that he had bought the same for Zoe, 10 full cups, plus the first autumn cake and the first autumn candy. Thinking of this, I threw all the milk tea into the nearby trash can. His misguided expressions of affection had severely disrupted my life. "Enough. I don't need these. All I want is for you to stop bothering me." Jonathan's face turned pale, but this phase didn't last long. Zoe soon showed up as well. "Jonathan, come back with me." Jonathan, anxious, tried to distance himself from her. "Ollie, there's nothing between me and Zoe anymore." After I got to the bottom of the situation, I moved her to another department. "If you want, I can even fire her." Zoe didn't expect Jonathan to be so ruthless. Her face was filled with hurt. "Jonathan, you just can't accept being apart from Alicia. Deep down, you still love me. Otherwise, why would you have left her to bring me medicine?" Chapter 8. She repeatedly brought up the things Jonathan had done for her, seemingly to prove that his love was real. Jonathan shook off Zoe's hand, which was trying to pull him back. "Enough. Zoe, stop bothering me. Everything I did for you, all the things I've done, are because you remind me of the Alicia I first met." He turned to me and said, "Alicia, back then you were so innocent and carefree. Over time, I got used to being with you, but the spark faded. That's when Zoe entered my life. And that's when everything spiraled out of control. But I can't let go of the years we've spent together. If you come back with me, can we start over? I didn't expect Jonathan to be so shameless. He saw in her the version of me from the past and said it so arrogantly. Zoe stood there, stunned. She wiped her tears and slowly regained her composure. What about the child? If you don't care about the child, I'll jump off the bridge. Zoe ran to the bridge, staring at the rushing river below. I hadn't known they had a child. I felt deeply regretful for having once loved such a scumbag. Jonathan seemed to wrestle with himself for a moment. And finally, he said dejectedly, I'm sorry, Ollie. Zoe is innocent. I'll take care of her. To be honest, I wasn't too surprised by his choice. He and Zoe went back to their country. My life didn't change much. My uncle, seeing how monotonous my life had become, introduced me to a friend, even though I tried to refuse. He insisted and dragged me to meet him. Ollie, you'll definitely know him. He's mentioned you several times. To my surprise, the person turned out to be my childhood friend. When we were kids, we would secretly sneak out to play together until we parted ways after junior high. Alicia, long time no see. Daniel greeted me, and his face still carried the sunny, cheerful expression I remembered from childhood. We walked around the lake for a long time, catching up on our lives. What surprised me was that, after all these years, he still wasn't married. I thought our reunion would be awkward after so many years, but the conversation flowed more naturally than I expected. Daniel and I had similar hobbies. Both of us enjoyed walking and attending music concerts. As a result, our paths crossed more often. One day, after a casual drink, Daniel and I were walking down the street, a little tipsy. We both swayed slightly as we walked. Why haven't you gotten married yet? Doesn't Uncle pay care? I asked the question that had been on my mind for a while. To my surprise, Daniel blushed all the way to his ears. His words stumbled. I'm waiting for someone. Seeing his reaction, I became even more curious. I asked, who are you waiting for? Does the person know your feelings? Before Daniel could answer, I stumbled and nearly fell. Luckily, Daniel quickly steadied me, his arm gently guiding me so that I didn't fall. The next moment, a man's hand shot out and swatted Daniel's hand off my shoulder. What are you doing? Who is this guy? I didn't expect Jonathan to still be haunting me like this. All the remaining alcohol-induced fog in my head cleared instantly. We have nothing to say. I tried to pull Daniel away, but Jonathan persisted, pleading, Ollie, I've taken care of things with Zoe. Please, give me one last chance. Since you've been gone, it feels like a part of me has been empty. I didn't realize how important you were to me, Ollie. He repeated this over and over. I interrupted him. Jonathan, I feel nothing but disgust for you now. Don't show up in front of me again. You think he really cares about you? He shouted after me. You've been divorced. How could he possibly not care? Daniel tightened his grip on me, looking into my eyes with intense sincerity. I don't care, Ollie. For all these years, I've been waiting for you. When I heard you were married a few years ago, I thought we had no fate. But when your uncle told me you came to the UK, you can't imagine how happy I was. His hand was warm, constantly transmitting warmth to me. I turned to Jonathan and said, you got divorced, and someone still wants you. Why can't the same be true for me? Jonathan tried to move forward, but I threatened to call the police, and he finally backed off. I pulled Daniel a few steps away before letting go of his hand. Thank you for stepping in and saving me. In truth, I didn't take his words to heart, assuming he had only said that to spare me embarrassment. But then, Daniel stopped and said very seriously, Ollie, I mean it, but you've just come out of an unhappy marriage. I understand you might have some reservations about me. I'll win you over, step by step, with sincerity. His sincerity left me somewhat speechless. I asked Daniel to give me some time. When I got back, Ava sent me a message. It turned out that Zoe, due to her pregnancy, wasn't happy about Jonathan having another female assistant. After all, she got to where she is because of that. It's normal for her to be worried. Ava clicked her tongue. Jonathan couldn't stand Zoe's constant tantrums at the company. One day, during an argument, Zoe fell, and the baby was lost. Zoe cried day and night. Jonathan gave her a sum of money. Is this what he meant by taking care of things with Zoe? After a long time, I had spent more time with Daniel, and we had grown very comfortable with each other. He proposed to me, and Uncle Pei and Aunt Pei didn't mind that I had been divorced. Our wedding was planned for the end of the year. During this time, my phone kept getting calls from China. When I answered, no one spoke. The day before our wedding, that familiar number called again. I picked up the phone. Jonathan, I know it's you. Stop pretending. I'm happy now. I hope you don't interfere with my happiness. He didn't say anything, just silently hung up the phone. Daniel and I exchanged rings, and with my uncle and grandmother's blessings, we walked down the aisle once more.